Hi Abby, we're going to take a look at tonal still life drawing. Starting off with the composition, you've broken up the ground plane pretty well. You've got your rectilinear things and even this cylindrical thing on its side. We got angles happening here. The angles of our table back here adding to that dynamic quality. Angles just lead eyes around and keep them moving. So even our light source is creating angled shadows on there. So pretty dynamic composition. We do have things sort of scattered about. They sort of seem, space between them is good. You could add more variety if there was the space wasn't as even between them. That's pretty small stuff at this level, but something just worth mentioning. Looking at our shape recognition, which includes things like proportion and angles, clock angles, and things like that. Um, Pretty reasonable. If we look at our little box on here, these are getting closer together, these receding parallels. This other box, they're not quite doing that same thing. Um, Notice here this edge seems to be bowing out a little bit. I'm not sure, the proportions here look somewhat believable. Chances are you don't see as much of this top as you do here, and you probably don't see as much of this top as we're showing here. This almost looks like we're looking down on things, whereas when the other objects we're looking at more of a typical tabletop surface. So this looks a little incongruent with the rest of things on there. The R is pretty well done. There's a lot. This is the R is really challenging. I'm glad you took that on because I think you certainly, that's a challenge I think you're up to and can do, and you did pretty well. But let's look at some of these parallel receding edges. Those are getting closer together. That's excellent, and this one goes along with them. But we also have this one, and there's also where this curve is, and that's what makes these curves really challenging. And overall, you did pretty darn well with that. We got a little issue here. Notice this parallel, this edge and this edge should line up if we follow them, and they're not quite doing that. But they're getting closer together with these up here and inside here. So overall, pretty darn good on that. We can't quite make out the lip of this bottle. Chances are this is going to be a little more pronounced in that ellipse. Pretty nice ellipse drawn on here. Drawing ellipses when they're at an angle is very challenging. So overall, pretty good with that. Your light direction is consistent coming from this right-hand side and affecting your R, and we see the cast shadows on all of these. I would urge you to squint, squint, squint like mad, because when we squint at your drawing, notice how the light's not affecting this bottle too much, and when we squint at this colander, it's just as bright here as it is in here almost. They're almost exactly the same, and when we squint at the R, we see this face and this highlight are really close to each other. Chances are they weren't that close to each other. There should be a little bit more separation in those values. Squinting is a great way to to see those things. Overall, you did a fine job. If you've got any questions on this, Abby, please just let me know.